Welcome to the September 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting. I hereby call the meeting to order. Members of the public may attend this City Council meeting in person or may watch and listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and at the city's website at www.wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and/or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person at the meeting, in advance, or by logging into the Zoom call and raising your hand during the public hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel. You will be asked to unmute, and then you may begin your comment. All public comments must include your full name and address. The second item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask everyone to stand and follow along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is a roll call. Please note that all are present.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 17, 2024 City Council meeting. The meeting is hereby called to order. Members of the public may attend the City Council meeting in person or may watch and listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and at the city's website at www.wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and/or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person, in advance, or by logging into the Zoom call and raising your hand during the public hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel. You will be asked to unmute, and then you may begin your comment. All public comments must include your full name and address. Second item on the agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everyone to please stand if able and follow along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next item on the agenda this evening is the roll call. Let the record reflect that all members of the council are present. Also would like to note that earlier this evening, the council participated in a workshop and reviewed and discussed the following. We reviewed a facility security improvement study, discussed a possible zoning study and amendments to the Central Core Neighborhood R3A, and received an update on the first phase of proposed ordinance amendments for short-term rental licenses. Next item on the agenda this evening is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or would anyone care to make any changes?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
To approve the agenda as is?
Yep.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item this evening is the public forum. As a reminder for members of the public who are in attendance this evening, who are interested in speaking, we ask that you please state your name, address, and indicate if you are representing a group. We also ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes. If the item you wish to speak about is something that is on the agenda for those that are in person, please fill out a form at the table and hand it to staff. For those that are watching via Zoom, please send a note via chat to staff and let them know what agenda item you wish to speak about. We also require that your camera is turned on when you speak. All right, we have a couple of items under the public forum this evening. The first item is an update from our Energy and Environment Committee activities from Chair Laura Lindelof. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Madam Mayor, that was my fault. It's actually Lauren. I screwed up on the name.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just blame Jeff. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, well, good
Lauren,
evening,
good evening.
Madam Mayor and city council members. I'm here, my name is Lauren Lindelof, and I'm the chair of the Energy and Environment Committee. I'm going to give you an update on some things that we're currently working on. I'll try and go as fast as I can.
Fantastic.
Okay. Well, currently, the Energy and Environment Committee was approved for a local climate action planning grant with the MPCA. This grant is in the amount of $50,000. It's not been finalized yet, but we have been notified that our grant application was approved. The draft agreement with the MPCA will come before the council for your review before any work is started. Some possibilities of what this may include would be review of existing data and reports such as our EV study, our utility infrastructure, our emergency preparedness, energy, water, and waste data. Conducting a vulnerability assessment for the city of Wayzata, analyzing our greenhouse gas data, and creating a city operations implementation plan. Next, dark skies. The committee met with Todd Burlett from Starry Skies North, which is part of the Dark Skies International. We learned about responsible outdoor lighting and possible ways to make changes for the lighting in Wayzata. Our 3 points of focus will be to look at creating a new ordinance with specific lighting requirements for new developments. Next is creating educational materials that are promoted in city media outlets or sent directly to businesses and residents. And finally, the committee will focus on specific city-owned areas for changes, such as the Beach Marina area and Lake Street, and possibly help to create a policy that covers city lighting. Solar tour. This weekend, or the weekend, not this weekend, the weekend of October 4th through 6th, Wayzata's solar arrays, which are now all live, will be part of a national and Minnesota solar sustainability tour. We have information already up on the ACES and MRES website about the solar tour we have on our, about the solar we have on our public buildings. Nick is there's a video of Nick on there too. So yeah, getting interviewed, it's great. Please check it out. In addition, the EE Committee, along with Blue Horizon Energy, will have a in-person portion of the tour down at the Muni on Sunday, October 6th, from 3 to 5 p.m. to talk to interested people and answer questions. And there's a rumor there might be special cocktail for the night, so put it on your calendar, October 6th. Let's see, Native Gardens. Last April, we had an event for native pollinator-friendly gardening at the Panaway. And I'm happy to let you know that a Wayzata High School student, Ava, who is on our committee, now she and other high school students have a native garden at Wayzata High School. So check it out next time you're there. And we had the native planting here at the library too. Let's see, the Sustainability Champion Award. We're still looking for possible recipients of this year's award. The award would go to a business or organization that's made progress in waste reduction, lowered their energy use, used renewable energy, native landscaping, water reduction, or water runoff. So if you know of any business or organizations, please let us know. We're still looking for a recipient. And finally, Nick just informed me we also had the LED retrofits in the fire hall and in the warming house down at Clap Park. So, any questions?
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions? Well, I have to say, I never fully understood what the Dark Sky initiative was until I started spending a lot of time up in northern Minnesota, just south of the Boundary Waters, literally like a stone's throw. And it really captivated my attention in terms of learning about the Boundary Waters and their dark sky designation, and what an impact it has on your enjoyment of the night sky compared to when we live in an urban environment where commercial buildings have lights on all night, and just all of these impacts that it has on our enjoyment of the outdoors. So I am curious to see what the Energy and Environment Committee comes up with, and especially I think for commercial buildings, as we see along the 394 corridor just outside of our town limits. A lot of them have very bright, lighting in the evening for a multitude of reasons. And I'm not saying that they're wrong for having what they have, but it'll be interesting to see how we consider and potentially evolve, given the recommendations from the Energy and Environment Committee. I'd also like to say congratulations on the grant. That's really exciting. When we considered a position to have someone writing grants, I wasn't sure exactly what kind of successes we would have, because grants are not always easy to obtain. But between energy and environment and the city overall, it allows us the opportunity to do some things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So congratulations.
Thanks.
And I wasn't here when we accepted Polly's resignation, but if you still speak with her or run into her, please pass on, my thanks, and thank you for picking up the torch on her behalf.
You're welcome. Yeah, and Miss Polly.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. Next up this evening, we have an update from the Heritage Preservation Board activities from Chair Sue Ankney.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This year, we were very busy at the Heritage Preservation Board. We reenacted the Mayor's Award and gave that to the people at 110 Minnetonka Boulevard, who've done an awesome job renovating their home and keeping it in character with the neighborhood. We also had a first ever Centennial Homes event in May. We had over 70 invitations go out to people who have homes over 100 years old, and we celebrated them and thanked them for keeping their homes and updating them. And we had a booth at J.J. Hill Day this year, and we had great feedback on the justice deeds and on the preservation that we've done. So, short and sweet. Any questions?
Oh, thank you. No, that award was fun to give out, and
It's nice to get it back.
absolutely. And that was former Commissioner Miriam's
Yes.
house.
Yep.
Yes, so
It's a pretty house.
it is a beautiful house. They've done a nice job with it. So thank you for all your efforts and your entire team. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to giving out more awards.
Thank you.
Be great. All right, so we are still in the public forum. We do have a couple of people who would like to speak, barring anybody on Zoom. Do we have anyone?
Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. So I have two forms here. I'll go in order of receipt. The first one was from Kathy Iverson.
Kathy Iverson, 2616 County Road 90, Independence. Former Wayzata resident, as of 3 weeks ago, gone. I did not plan on speaking at all, but I sat through a workshop and am very taken back that the council is considering a moratorium on new construction in residential areas. The character of our neighborhoods have been changed for good. This has started years and centuries ago. I have sat through planning commissions over the last 10 years where many residents came out to save their homes, their character, to no avail. My neighborhood is a neighborhood I don't even recognize anymore. It's too late. Because somebody has something in their neighborhood now. What about all the people from other neighborhoods that came and asked over and over and over, please think about what you're building? Every neighborhood has gone through change. I think you should study it. I agree with that. I worry about the hardcover. But you shouldn't do a moratorium. Take the time, study it, put the ordinances in place that you need to protect and go for the issue. But it's too late for a moratorium. Had a moratorium been put in my neighborhood, I lived here for 25 years, raised my kids here. I wanted to stay 25 more years. But the taxes have driven people out, and I am one of those. It saddened me to this day, but to hear my fellow council members consider that today, when other people have pleaded and pleaded, I was one of them, to no avail. Think seriously about that impact. The impact to the builders, the impact to all these neighbors, all these neighborhoods that have already been, there's no character left. This isn't the Wayzata we knew. It's not the Wayzata that people moved into. That's gone. So think about the issue you're really trying to address here. What is it? Is it setbacks? Is it variance? The houses are, it's all different now. It always has been. So please seriously consider the impact. It's a short-term fix, but you got to get to the core issue, okay, you guys? I mean, I wish I could, I mean, it just, the fact that it was being considered was something I was just taken back by. Just wrong.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Gordy Straka.
Evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
Cordy Straka, Huntington Avenue, Wayzata. Just what Kathy was saying, I've been here a long time. And as I tell people, I haven't left Wayzata. Wayzata left me. But my question that I come up here to talk about tonight is on the election coming up. I want to know how Andy Mullen can run for mayor when he runs a business on city property down at the beach in a building that the city built down there, and he has a thriving business and running for mayor. To me, that's a conflict of interest. I don't know what the lawyer would say about that, but, and also he brought up the walkway way back when, said there'd be no taxpayer money involved in that he was gonna raise donations to do that. Well, that's long since gone, and now I heard that we're 11 million and rising of taxpayer money in building that walkway, which I'm not in favor of to begin with. But I just wanna know how he can run and have a business here in the city, on city property, and it's not a conflict of interest. That's my question.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Straka. We don't normally take questions. These are I won't speak to the specifics because I don't have them, but two separate and distinct issues. Running for elected office, he's qualified based on the criteria for those who file their candidacy or affidavit for candidacy. With regard to running a commercial operation, and we're talking about the rental business, he has.
Why not?
Okay. Down at the beach, could you speak a little bit to the terms of the rental of that property, please?
Happy to, Madam Mayor. And, I can provide the council, and depending on the appropriate response, public information. But essentially, Wainani leases space from the city. It's a lease that was approved by the city council. I believe the building is not ours. It's the company's. So, as you mentioned, the mayoral candidate, Andrew Mullen, is qualified to run, and he's not mayor yet, or, depending on what happens with the election. So we'll tackle that if there is any issue, which I don't know that there is. We will tackle that, once the election's over with.
And if he were to get elected, he would have to recuse himself from any dealings in terms of any agreements with the city moving forward.
Likely some approach like that, but we'd work together and work with him and develop a strategy, yeah.
That's between the city attorney, city staff, and the individual.
Exactly.
Question. Could you speak a little bit to the statement that Mr. Straka made with regard to the monies for the boardwalk?
Happy to. And this is something that we try to reiterate as much as we can, because it does get it's a complicated funding. The funding plan for the Lake Walk is complicated, but in a nutshell, the construction of the Lake Walk was never funded by the general levy. The general levy is the mechanism that we utilize to receive taxes from our property owners. Construction was paid for by the state, the Conservancy, and a TIF district. It was not funded by the general taxpayers. It was not funded by the general taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I think we're still in the public forum. Have we received any comments online or?
Madam Mayor, we have not.
Okay. Very good. Then we will move on in our agenda. Our next item is new agenda items. And this is an opportunity for members of the council to bring forward any items they would like to discuss at a later date. No? Anything?
Nope.
No. All right, then we will move on. And next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. This evening, we have the following items. Approval of the City Council regular meeting minutes of September 3, 2024. Approval of the check register, approval of municipal licenses, receipt of a police activity report, receipt of the building activity report, approval of the lease agreement with the Greater Wayzata Area Chamber of Commerce, approval of termination of health services agreement with the City of Minnetonka, acceptance of Parks Maintenance and Operation Manual, approval of the First Amendment to Development Agreement for 326 and 332 Broadway Avenue South, approval of second reading and adoption of Ordinance 840, approving the rezoning of property to institutional for Moments of Wayzata at 163 Wayzata Boulevard West, approval of professional services agreement with Mohagan Hansen for design services at Wayzata Bar and Grill, and lastly, authorize the purchase of a new Toolcat utility work machine for the Public Works Department. Members of the council, any items that you have questions on or wish to pull for further discussion? All right, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a second?
Second it?
Motion's been first and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I'll take us to new business. First item under new business is to consider adoption of Resolution 39-2024, adopting the 2025 fee schedule. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just getting up the right presentation here. Just 1 second.
Where's yours? My old car.
Okay, thank you. Had the wrong slide there, so. The adoption of the fee schedule is something that the council considers at around this time after the preliminary budget is approved. The preliminary budget is based on revenues, expenditures and revenues, but the revenues are comprised of the tax levy, of course, and a lot of fees. Those fees are generally adjusted as a result of the fee schedule. So this generally comes after the initial preliminary approval of the budget. As was discussed at the last meeting, a big focus of the budget process and the fee schedule as a result, and this aligns with our strategic plan. One of our three main priorities is to diversify revenue. And it's really to recapture some of the revenue that's been generated and by the users that are ultimately utilizing a lot of the service that the city provided. So taxes are one way of doing that, but another kind of way to diversify revenue is through our fees of users of the community services. To that effect, a lot of our fees have gone up, a proposed 5%. That's generally in line with CPI and what we're seeing just in terms of the cost of doing business. There are a few exceptions. A lot of them, as you see with some of these engineering-related fee increases, are just truing the fees up to what the actual costs are. Most of these costs have to have a direct tie-in. The administrative work that goes into them. So this is truing up that, making sure that the city isn't subsidizing, for example, some of those activities. So that's why those percentages are a little bit higher. Wine license is going up because we haven't been able to increase it along with inflation over the past few years since we were limited statutorily. Other exceptions in the proposed 2025 fee schedule are police contractual services rates going up more than the 5%. Again, that's directly a result of our wages. Labor is what the services rate covers, and police wages has gone up significantly. Our water and sewer and stormwater, those are a unique animal because we've previously put together a water utility rate study that looks at our services and our fees over the course of 10 years to cover the costs of the infrastructure, repairs, and also making sure that we have an adequate reserve fund. And so those proposed percentages reflect that study. Lastly, a couple of the other kind of interesting ones, solid waste. That 0% is per our current contract, Republic Waste Services. The Marina Fund, that's 8%. That was discussed at the workshop a couple meetings ago. That's reflective of the overall tax levy increase right now, which is generally a reflection of both the cost of doing business and how our community and organization is growing. And lastly, the cemetery, that's 10% increase. That is an enterprise fund. And in order to keep that fund in the black, we need to increase those fees appropriately. So that's kind of those are the exceptions. In summary, happy to answer any questions that the council has, but ultimately we recommend that the council adopt Resolution 3924, adopting the 2025 fee schedule. One other quick note, there might be a few other increases that we will propose between now and the end of the year. This can be changed by resolution at any meeting, but we want to do a little bit more research on and engagement on some of the proposed fees, such as the sidewalk cafes and a couple others. So happy to answer any questions that the council has.
What are the others we're not voting on tonight?
Sidewalk cafe, and I think there was one other one that escapes me right now. But that was a big one, and that was mentioned in our strategic planning. We want to make sure we talk to the businesses first before we propose something that's significant.
Are we voting on the increase in the liquor licensing? Because that was a substantial one. I didn't see it on the list here tonight.
No, we're not, because that is, we're voting on it, but it wasn't on the list because we're just proposing a 5%. It's not an exception.
Okay. Thank you. Questions?
I have a question, but it's more, I just want to understand this a little better. City manager, let's just take, for example, the water meter increase, model 450, it's on page 229. We're going from 3,208 to 6,511 to replace it. That's a 3,300 increase. So we evidently we subcontract that out to have somebody's model 450 water meter. Who has a 450? Is that residential or commercial, or do we know?
Councilmember Parkhill, I would ask Public Works Director and City Engineer Mike Kelly to answer that specific question. We are doing a water meter upgrade over the next couple of years, and ultimately those new prices or those new rates reflect what we're doing with that initiative.
Yeah.
Councilmember Parkhill, Madam Mayor, Council. The rate increases are based on the prices that we received as part of our latest bid for the upgrade of our water meters. The water meter replacement in itself is no cost to each of the users to replace those. As new users come in, a new business that might need a model 450, it would be that cost to purchase a new meter based on our
From
current
the
prices.
city, and the city has to install it.
Correct.
They don't have their plumber do it.
We provide the basic services of putting it together with the reader and the horn. We provide it to the contractor for installation, and then we inspect it.
Okay. All right. This must be a big building to need a $6,000 meter, I guess. But-
Those are a 4-inch meter. They're a very large meter, commercial meter.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to understand what, if the residents are being charged for the meter replacements, and that's also part of my question, which you answered.
Yes, they are not being charged for meter replacement.
Other questions? Yes.
I have one question here. We're about to vote on a complete list of fee increases with a few notable exceptions on percentage. But there's one in here that one of our residents brought to question, was, I think I got it right here, a large fee of $2,420 for amendments in plans and so on. That's one line item of many dozens, if not hundreds here. So my question is, can we look into that at some point? And if we decide that that is not a correct number, that we can change the fee on the fly somewhere during the year?
Yeah, happy to look into that, and we can propose updates to the fee schedule at any time, so happy.
I'd like to have that one looked into. I don't know the facts except what was presented in the email, which is that the fee that Wayzata is charging is dramatically higher than any of the cities around us, and so I'd like to know what's behind that. And if we decide that it is too high a fee, I'd like to know that we can actually change that along the way.
Happy to.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else? So it's not a question necessarily about the line items that we're approving this evening before us. It is something, though, that I would make sure that we remain cognizant of. While our restaurant core is very strong and prospering, restaurants around the metro are literally disappearing. I mean, they're just closing their doors. I don't want to inadvertently get to a point because of charging fees and pricing people out and squeezing them from a lot of different areas that we end up in the same boat. Our vibrancy, our vitality is based on, you know, them being here and drawing people to town. So I would just like to caution that we don't get aggressive. I mean, we need to cover our costs. It's not up to the taxpayers to subsidize any commercial enterprise. But I want to make sure that we're cognizant of potential impacts as we move forward. So just like to throw that out there. Okay, very good. Well, thank you to staff. I really do appreciate. I know when Councilmember Plekish, I believe, said the dozens of line items, you're not whistling Dixie there. I mean, that is a lot of, it's a lot of individual items that staff looks at and figures out, you know, what is appropriate based on the circumstances and what it costs the city. So it is appreciated, the effort that goes into that. Okay, so we have a staff recommendation before us. If someone would be interested in making a motion to adopt Resolution 39-2024, adopting the 2025 fee schedule.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhill. And a second?
I would second that motion.
A motion's been first and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Will take us to the next item under new business, which is to consider adoption of Resolution 38-2024, establishing Public Art Steering Committee. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and our Parks and Environment Planner, Keiser, is going to walk us through this item.
Thank you, Mayor Jadal, Madam Mayor, and Council. So as noted, I'll go over Resolution 38-2024, which is proposing to establish a Public Art Steering Committee. I'll first go over some brief background as to how we got to this point, how we currently operate public art within the city, and some summary of the council workshop discussion that we had, and then I'll go over the draft framework that we had before council here tonight. So again, to start with the background information, the establishment of a public art committee was listed in the 2024-2026 strategic plan. Alongside that, there was another item in the strategic plan of actually installing a public art piece as well. So that's really what jump-started this conversation and what brought us here today of bringing forward some framework for a potential public art steering committee. The city currently has operated under a public art policy that was created in 2015. I'll go over that, I think in the next slide here, a little bit more detail. But through this discussion that we had with council and this item listed in the strategic plan, staff has met with various other cities that either have a public art committee or they term it an Arts and Culture Commission to get some more information of what works well for that city, what doesn't work well, and try to learn from them for potentially starting a public art committee here in Wayzata. And through those discussions and through that research, these kind of 4 bullets here at the end were kind of the main themes that came out of those discussions. The first being a work plan and master plan. Really, all the cities that I talked to really stressed that having a clear, concise work plan for a public art committee is crucial to their success, to make sure everyone's on the same page, they know what they're signing up for, and aligns with the city council and ultimately what the community wants as well. The second one there, funding source. They also stressed having some kind of consistent funding source is also important too. Each city funds their public art differently, and some of it ebbs and flows each year, and that's, when it does ebb and flow, it's hard to plan for each year accordingly. So having a funding source that is consistent has seemed to be important to the success of implementing public art. And then the last 2 there, committee membership and committee meetings, really stressing there is that getting folks that are really interested in public art and getting a diverse group as part of the committee is important. And then committee meetings, you'll see in the framework, we're trying to be a little bit flexible at this point in time for getting consistent meetings on the docket. Mainly all the other cities just do it monthly, have a monthly meeting like what we do with all our other boards and commissions too. So the 2015 public art policy, that's currently still in effect, but really what this public art policy does is when a public art proposal is proposed, a ad hoc committee is created to review any proposals and ultimately provide a recommendation to the city council for that public art piece. Some of the recent examples are the Big Water art piece on the Lake Street roundabout or the Meyer Place art piece on the corner of Lake Street and Ferndale Road. So this is really kind of a reactive approach where we get a proposal, we create a committee and do the review that way. I think what the discussion that we've kind of had is maybe a more proactive approach and actually going for specific projects rather than being reactive as part of this policy. So another interesting point is that in that public art policy, there is a purpose statement already in there. So if certainly the Public Art Steering Committee, if that is approved, will certainly look at this purpose statement. And any long-standing committee would certainly look at this as well. But some of the important ones in there were mechanism for inclusion for public art, creation and enhancement of public spaces, enriching the city's public environment. And then the last one is kind of an overarching theme, you could say, of providing public art with the highest quality of aesthetic experience that has a hometown feel and celebrates the proud history of the lake. So if the steering committee is created, they'll certainly look at this, and they can also create their own purpose statement, vision statement, mission, and that sort of thing as well. So in July, the City Council did have a workshop discussion to talk about the option to create a public art committee. And through that discussion, the first step that Council directed staff to do, or to create a kind of framework for a steering committee to determine the best approach for advancing public art in the city, whether that be creating a long-standing public art committee or possibly another avenue. So the steering committee, and through the framework, which I'll get to in a second, But essentially, they'd be directed to create a mission vision statement, create clear, concise goals and objectives for a committee, and then if a committee is created, creating those bylaws that all the other boards and commissions have, and then work on some sort of a framework or work plan that a committee could work to implement. And then the last note there was that the council did direct $50,000 to the public art CIP that the steering committee or a longstanding committee could use or utilize for public art in the community. So now I'll go into the draft framework that's presented here tonight that staff created from that discussion and the research that we've done with other cities. So to start with the purpose statement, ultimately the direction for the steering committee would be to provide a recommendation to the city council regarding the creation of a public art committee. They would conduct research, work on policy development to ultimately advance public art in the community, and with the overall goal to enrich the lives of local citizens and visitors by integrating public art into the community. So the goals and objectives that we have laid out in this framework is, first of all, if a longstanding public art committee should be created, or if there's any other ideas or any avenues that we could pursue, we'd certainly look at those as well. But if a public art committee is recommended, we'd create those bylaws for the committee, possibly determine what forms of public art should be implemented, what would be good ideas for Wayzata, what have the other cities done, do that kind of research and see any creative ideas or new ideas that we could ultimately put into a work plan that the committee would work to implement. And then, again, that note on research funding options, look at other cities, see what potentially would be the best option for Wayzata. So continuing on in the framework here, we have the general bylaws. Now with this note, again, we wanted to keep it, at least have some flexibility at this point. So we noted we could have 5 to 7 members on this steering committee based on the interest that we receive. We put a list of potential members that could be involved. Again, this is just, it's not limited to these groups or members, but just a general list of people that we could possibly reach out to and make aware of this opportunity. Staff liaison, at this point, that would be myself for that, so I'd attend any meetings and help them through any work plan or research, policy creation, all that information or that work. We did note in the framework of a term of 1 year. Now, this is really geared towards having at least some sort of deadline in this steering committee to ultimately make a recommendation to the city council. Now, that could be within 6 months or 8 months. That'd be great. But ultimately, we're looking at a 1-year term to let the folks that are signing up or applying to be on the steering committee at least have a general sense of what kind of time commitment they'd be getting themselves into, and really pushing for at least having a recommendation by the end of 1-year term, but that can certainly come before then. And then, touch on the last one, but the one second to last note there, the meeting date and times, we didn't necessarily put a meeting date and time in there right now. We really want to see who applies for the steering committee, and we can have discussions at that point with the potential applicants to find a good time, time during the month and time during the day that would work best for everyone, just so we don't, just so we get as many folks applying as possible and not kind of leaving some folks out if they can't meet at a certain time or day. So next steps, if the Public Art Steering Committee is approved, we would then put this opening or this committee on the list of potential openings with all the other board and commission openings that we have. This usually goes out in October, and then they're usually due mid-November. So we would get a good sense at that point what kind of interest we have from the community for a potential steering committee. And then again, staff would meet with the steering committee, have those meetings, ultimately make a recommendation in 2025 regarding a work plan, regarding a longstanding committee, all those sorts of things. that is listed there below too. So with that, I'll bring it back to Madam Mayor and Council for any questions you might have for me.
Wonderful, thank you, Nick. Questions of staff? Yes.
So just to make sure I'm clear on time frame, this is a Public Art Steering Committee that will look at us having a Public Art Committee. And if this passes, we'll start this process. And then the steering committee will work on this through all next year. And at the end of next year, and in 2025, come with your recommendations and conclusions of the research you've done, right?
Yeah, Councilmember Sorensen, so with the application process, usually they're appointed at the beginning of the year, so
Yeah.
January 2025, that's essentially when they would start their work or have their meetings start or begin. And then throughout 2025, based on those meetings and those discussions, that's when we would provide a formal recommendation in 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I think this is great to see come to fruition. I know that Councilmember Plekish has been a strong proponent and a vocal proponent of establishing a public art committee of some kind and this interim measure of a steering committee to figure out really what kind of direction did we want to go in and see if this was a long-term type of initiative that we really wanted to take on, given the time and potential financial commitments, I think is a great step. So this is, again, laying the foundation and the framework for what this will look like going forward, without us as a council saying, this is what it should be. We should let the people who are going to do the work do that. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with. And as you mentioned, the what is it called? The Big Water? Big Water.
Yep.
That's the official name. That was really our first piece of public art and the collaboration between this public and private partnership, or civic organization, I should say, with the Rotary and their donation really spurred that piece of art. And it was a great process. And it's fun to see things like that happen. It's good for towns and cities to have art. We feel it's positive. Wonderful. So thank you to staff for your work in putting this together. Would someone care to make a motion to adopt Resolution 38-2024, establishing a public art steering committee?
Well, Madam Mayor, I would love to make that motion to adopt Resolution 38-2024, establishing a public arts steering committee.
Well, thank you, and I am pleased to accept your motion, Councilmember.
We need a second, I think.
We do. Well, you know what? I think I might second that motion. There you go. Oh, I know, it threw you for a loop, right? Okay, so we have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
Right.
Madam Mayor, for the record, I think that might be the first time a mayor's made a second motion. Perfectly acceptable under parliamentary procedure, but just, I have to note that.
Well, in my tenure, yes, it is.
I've never
I
seen
know
it.
previous mayor had done it.
Oh, really?
Yes, when nobody else would second the motion.
Yeah, I guess that, yeah.
Yes, yes. All right. I think everybody here was excited too, but I kind of preempted that, so I was proud to do it. All right, that ends new business. I guess that takes us to the city manager's report.
It does. Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things tonight. A couple of recognitions I just want to speak publicly about. One is at the end of this week, Kathy Ovshek will be retiring. Kathy's been our most recent senior accountant, and she's really been working with finance throughout her tenure at the Wayzata, city of Wayzata. She's been here for 31 years. I would say that one of the few, consistencies, or one of the few things that have stayed the same throughout that tenure is her presence and the very strong financial health of this organization. And that's because of a lot of things. We're a blessed community. We've had great councils, great staff. Kathy, I would argue, is the the commonality amongst that entire spanning more than 3 decades. We have the highest bond rating a city can have, which is very unique for a small community. We're just in great financial position. I know it doesn't always seem like that with, we're talking about increasing taxes and providing funding for, all the services that we provide. Relatively speaking, we pay for cash for most of our projects. Again, we're in great financial position. Kathy's a big reason for that. In addition to just her skill set and what she's brought to the table financially, she's just a great person. She's got a great personality. She lifts people up. And I know I speak for everybody at City Hall, and I'm sure that the council as well. We're going to really miss her. Our values, we have 4 values: excellence, teamwork, friendliness, and responsiveness. She embodies all those, but she is the most responsive employee I think I've ever worked with. And we're going to celebrate her on Thursday at the Muni, but I just want to publicly acknowledge Kathy, her service to the community, and she will be missed dearly.
I'm not looking forward to the next audit after she's gone.
Well,
We fly through that with flying colors because of, that's another thing that is so important, our annual audit. And we go through that without any blemishes, and it's 99% is because of her.
And to that end, the legacy that she's leaving us in great shape and has taken other employees under their wing or under her wing. So I think we'll have, we'll be able to kind of hit the ground running thanks to her. In addition to Kathy, I want to recognize for the first time in our annual staff recognition event, we put out individual awards based on our values, and we solicited applications from all of our employees throughout all the organizations. We had a number of submittals. Ultimately, Kathy Learvig, our city clerk, won the award, for the individual award for our overall performance and adherence to our values. Well-deserved. Anybody who's worked with Kathy, who've talked to her, knows that she really embodies all of our values. She's just a really nice person to talk to. She's very personable. She gets to know you, and she does a great job at her core duties, which is supervising her customer service team members and running an election. Elections have changed so much over the past 10 years with early voting, and it's really constant throughout an election year. She has she has a backlog of community members that are wanting to take part in the election process. It's because we have great community members who want to be engaged, but it's also because Kathy's awesome. So Kathy, a well-deserved recipient of our individual performance award. And as far as the team award goes, that was given to our Public Works Department for the great job they do. The city looks beautiful. They're the ones that are, get up in the middle of the night to plow our roads. I get like 2 calls a year of complaints, and no matter what, we're going to get complaints. We can always do a better job, but they're amazing and well-deserving of our overall excellence in the work that they do, whether it's snow plowing, keeping our parks clean, removing trash, the utility, water main break in the middle of the night, and a bazillion other things that I'm missing. They do a great job. So bravo to Kathy Learvig and our Public Works Department for those awards. 2 other quick things. No real update in our 9/11 memorial vandalism. If folks are watching at home, if you don't know, a really significant artifact, a piece of glass was stolen or destroyed. We're not sure. It's disappeared from our 9/11 memorial. The Wayzata Crime Prevention Coalition has issued an award of $1,000 for if somebody has it still, they can drop it off at the police department. No questions asked, just give us, we want it back. So we're hoping, we haven't gotten any significant leads. We're hoping there's, that we're still going to have success with that. We're in conversations with both the Conservancy and the family, the Aamoth family, about ultimately, if we need to, replacing that with an appropriate artifact of some kind. So stay tuned for more information on that. That's just a general status update. Lastly, props to both the fire department and all the people that came out on Sunday. It was a beautiful day, and I talked to Chief Clapprich. They had 1,050 people come out for the pancake breakfast, which, barring the exceptional year of 2017 with Officer Matthews, his death in kind of a very special pancake breakfast for that, that was the largest by far. So great job by our fire department, really getting out the word. Thanks to Liv for some social media blasts. And thanks for the fire department for just all they do and working hard on a beautiful day and just really creating community, because it was a great time and a lot of smiles on people's faces and full stomachs too. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, congratulations to the fire department. I wasn't able to be there, but I did see some dance moves on social media by some of our firefighters. So I expect to see some more of those and maybe some new moves.
Maybe
So-
with the council too someday.
Oh, boy. Okay. One can only hope. That's, yeah, maybe. In the spirit of recognition, I also would like to thank the residents down at Circle Drive, the little pocket garden in the middle of the street there. Drove by it the other day. Gorgeous. What a lovely, lovely, lovely job. It just looks so quaint and beautiful. They're really doing just phenomenal work. So I just want to say thank you to them for that. They've taken it upon themselves to maintain that. And then the one thing we didn't mention is Thursday is the Candidates Forum hosted by the League of Women Voters, 6:30 here in Council Chambers, and it will be broadcast live through WCTV.
Yes, we'll do that this year. Historically, we've always broadcast on WCTV, which you can get access to watch the cable or go to our website, and you can get a link there. It's also going to be in our city's YouTube page as well.
Oh, good. Okay. It's a busy season for the League of Women Voters. I was out on their website just throughout the state. It is well, obviously throughout the country. I mean, all of the forums, the ones you don't even remember or think about having a candidate forum for. It is amazing the amount of work that they have to put into to make that all happen. So, very good. Anything else from the council? No? One thing, Jeff, I know you and I talked about this some time ago, and maybe it's something for a lot further down the road. But as our communities change, our demographics change, and our public safety, as we think about that in terms of public safety, and I think about kind of these trends in public safety right now, with issues of lift assists, and the impact that it has to our public safety. It would be good to maybe have a conversation with our police and fire chiefs in terms of trends that they've seen, and then also kind of what other communities are doing that have paid on call or duty crews, or alternatively full-time departments.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to give an update to the council, and we can talk about that information. You can take it if we want to have a special workshop or if you want more, but I'll start with just getting that summary from our chiefs and go from there.
Yeah, I think just from a policy standpoint too, in terms of, our other partners as well, North Memorial, and what impacts it's having on them, and how we manage that as a community with our public safety officials. That'd be good. All right. Anything? No? All right. Then how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.